In the NFL, winning a championship means everything. The players on a Super Bowl winning team are locked into history forever. It's an exclusive group that will forever be known quite simply as champions. The players who did what every player ever wanted to do: raise the Lombardi Trophy. Even still, within such an impressive group of winners, there's an even more impressive club: the players who produce dynasties.
And the Patriots are Super Bowl champions!
How about them Cowboys?
Going long for Swan! He's got it!
And he throws into the end zone. Touchdown!
As you can imagine, the cruelest thing the NFL could ever do as a league is cheating a team of a dynasty. And somehow, some way, this actually happened. The ramifications changed the league for decades. In this video, we're going to examine how the NFL stripped the Raiders from becoming one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history. The year is 1983. The Raiders are coming off an 8-1 strike year where their rookie running back, Hall of Famer Marcus Allen, had just been selected as a first-team All-Pro and had a shot at winning the league MVP. The team had won a Super Bowl just 3 years prior and was poised to make another postseason run. The quarterback room consisted of veteran Jim Plunkett, the Raiders' primary starter for the few years prior, who had already helped deliver the team a championship, and Mark Wilson, the prospect in the waiting. This team had an uber-talented defense and some of the best skill weapons in the game on offense, with All-Pros Marcus Allen and tight end Todd Christensen. But the quarterback play during that season came up short. This team had everything else figured out, and sure, Plunkett did enough eventually. I mean, the team did win the Super Bowl, although it was mainly off the back of Marcus Allen and the stacked defense. Looking to the future, though, that 1983 season would be Plunkett's last year of playing 10-plus games. So now that I've set you up a bit with just how great these Raiders were, let's rewind a bit to the 1983 draft. Plunkett's career was entering the twilight stage, and another top-notch prospect out of Stanford was coming to the NFL. In fact, I'd say that's underselling what John Elway was. He was the most hyped-up prospect since Joe Namath in 1965. Even to this day, Elway remains one of the top college prospects the sport has ever seen. When you look at the guys who came after him, whether it be Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, or even Trevor Lawrence, the benchmark will always be Elway. He's the prospect they all got compared to. Everyone wanted him, including the New York Giants, the New York Jets. Wait, that's not it. I mean, the New York Yankees. Elway was a two-sport star and was drafted in the second round of the 1981 MLB draft. Yankees owner George Steinbrenner loved him, and that terrified the NFL. Elway said, "Steinbrenner really thought I could be a starting outfielder for the Yankees. When you're young like I was, 20 years old at the time, honestly, that was a tremendous thought. An exciting thought." Everything was looking great for Elway, well, except for one thing. The Baltimore Colts owned the #1 pick in the draft, a team that had won just 2 games in the prior 2 years. The Elways were wary of coaching staff turnover, and they didn't like owner Robert Irsay either. So Elway's agent Marvin Demoff devised a plan. He told the Colts that Elway didn't want to play in Baltimore. Sure, the Colts could just draft him and call his bluff, but the scary thing was, Elway had the New York Yankees in his back pocket. Basically, in order to save face for the Colts, they created a public excuse for the trade. Elway wanted to play on the West Coast. Still, the Colts weren't just gonna give him away to the first Western team that came calling, right? They knew what type of player Elway was, and their price sure was gonna reflect that. They wanted 3 first-round picks, including 2 of those in the 83 draft, and one of them being a top 6 pick. In addition, they also wanted 2 second-round picks. So almost every team in the league came calling. That long list of teams includes the Raiders. The only problem for the Raiders was that they sat all the way back at number 26 overall. It was going to take a special haul of picks and players to move that far up in the draft. With Raiders owner Al Davis, though, anything could be done. The first part of the deal was to ensure the Colts would still get a top quarterback. So the Raiders agreed to a deal with the Bears to trade future Hall of Famer Howie Long for the number 6 pick. That was the key piece of the trade because the Colts then wanted to use it to select Dan Marino. The Raiders call up Baltimore saying they got the 6th pick and will also give them the 26th pick along with a first rounder the next year. This thing was going down to the wire, but the Raiders had the best offer the Colts could take. The trade seemed all set until the Bears received a phone call the night before the draft.
Do you like Al Davis? I guess the best way to answer that is that I always considered Al kind of a charming rogue.
When he took on Pete Rozelle in the National Football League and was defeating them in the courtroom, this got him more joy than what had happened on the football field.
At this point, it's time we go over why this mysterious phone call was happening in the first place. You see, there was this powerful feud between Commissioner Pete Rozelle and Raiders owner Al Davis. There are multiple layers to this conflict, and I guess you could point it back to Davis once heading the NFL's biggest competitor in the American Football League. Davis and the AFL had poached enough great players to the point where the NFL was pretty much forced to merge. Davis had actually hoped to become NFL commissioner, but Rozelle remained in charge. And if you know anything about Al Davis, then you'd know there was no way he was going to work under Rozelle. So eventually he took control of the Raiders. By 1983, he had established himself as one of the NFL's all-time characters and controversial figures. Maybe his most divisive effort came when he sued Rozelle and the NFL, yes, his own league, in an attempt to move the Raiders to LA. He won that freedom and an $18 million settlement. There was also that time where Davis was the only owner to vote against a Rozelle contract extension. These two had been at war with each other for decades, and Rozelle was about to deliver the biggest blast yet. After the trade for the number 6 pick had already been agreed upon, the NFL's league office calls the Bears, and the deal suddenly vanished. The Bears start to irrationally backtrack on the deal. They say there is no trade, and they will not re-engage with the Raiders. Elway himself even said he thought he was going to be a Raider. He added, "I heard someone blocked it, but I won't say his name." Ron Wolf, the former Raiders director of player personnel, said, "I think there's a fella in New York City who put the kibosh on that by the name of Rozelle." Al Davis went to his grave believing the league had conspired against the Raiders. Of course, the league office will just say it was Davis's paranoia, but Elway's agent said this wasn't just paranoia. And to make things worse, Bears GM Jim Finks was always very loyal to the league, and at one point was a leading candidate for commissioner. It seems Rozelle got his revenge for the move to LA, the lawsuit, the vote against his contract. Al Davis could deny his power all he wanted, but in the end, Rozelle denied him a long-lasting dynasty. On the day of the draft, the Colts selected Elway with the number 1 pick. There was no deal that could contend with the Raiders' one. When the number 6 pick came around, the Bears selected Hall of Famer Jimbo Covert. It didn't take long for Elway's camp to announce in the middle of the draft that he was going to go play for the Yankees. And that officially turned the heat up on the Colts, especially owner Robert Irsay. He didn't want to be the owner who let Elway go to the MLB. Less than a week after the draft ended, Irsay went rogue and traded Elway to the Broncos without consulting his staff. What could go wrong, right? Irsay got back just a 1984 first-round pick, backup quarterback Mark Herman, and offensive lineman Chris Hinton. Immediately, it was obvious the Raiders' deal blew this one out of the water. Davis wanted to file an action that would negate the Broncos' deal, but that too never happened. Ironically, in the end, the Raiders had the chance to take an all-time quarterback with their 26th pick. But instead of taking Dan Marino, they picked Don Mosbar, who was a quality tackle, but not Dan Marino. They had Elway on the tips of their fingers, but an outside force kept them from reeling in quite possibly the greatest prospect the NFL has ever seen. Elway would go on to win 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos. The Raiders, of course, remained one of the best teams in the league for a short while due to their roster talent. But over the course of Elway's career, the Raiders had 12 different starters at quarterback. On one fateful night before the 1983 draft, the silver and black dream of becoming a dynasty through the end of the century was destroyed over a phone call stemming from decades of political warfare between 2 of the NFL's most powerful figures. A Hall of Fame quarterback was on his way to the best team in the league until he suddenly wasn't. It's a shocking scandal that should never be forgotten.
The actual most shocking scandal was Mark Sanchez touching teammate spots.